The last.
What is going on?
Yeah, I don't remember a fatal being out there. It was a truck made a.
Or your insurance looked at it as Cayuga County.
I do
Good
remember.
evening, just letting everybody know that the live stream has started and
Like the Amazon.
Chambers is unmuted.
They got a camera in the truck. So this family's gonna be rich doing this. This family's gonna be really rich.
Amanda just said that we're live.
They're alive now.
Thank you.
We're up
Up and running.
Unmuted, yep.
and it just said so.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hans, it's all ready to go. It's all yours, all ready to go.
Just the meeting will please come to order. Guess we need to approve the minutes. December 8th.
Second, Basile.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Department updates, Jennifer.
So you have my report in front of you. I do have a couple of things to add from this. So our office has hired a replacement for the principal supervising real property tax service specialist. And she will be starting at the beginning of February. So we're excited about that. And so thank you for passing that resolution last month to allow us to fill that. And the other thing is, at the end of last month, the governor did sign into new legislation, a requirement that a mailing be done as a second notice for the senior citizens exemption. So our office has kind of taken charge of that with all the towns using a vendor that we're currently using for our tax bill printing that was able to get that up and running. So they're going to be doing that for most of the towns. There are a few that decided to do it on their own. But so it will be a pass-through charge to the towns, but just so you know, we did help them out with that as well. Any questions?
They would have paid the county for that. So the ones that opt to do it themselves decide to do it themselves.
They will do it themselves. The
and not
ones
having costs.
that are coming through our vendor will, it'll be a pass-through charge.
Okay.
Yep.
Any further questions for Jennifer?
So the volunteer firefighter one, we have to make a local law.
That would require a local law in order
Do
to
that.
adopt that for the county.
I mean, I'm all for this, but here's my problem with it, because, Albany doesn't leave Albany very often to think. I mean, look at Cato and Ira talking about, I could throw you the ball, you're in Ira, I'm in Cato. So they're not just, people who live in Ira who are in the Cato Fire Department. There's people in
Right, so
Cato
they
who are in
would-
the Ira Fire Department.
They wouldn't be eligible. Well, they
because-
would for the county. As long as they live in Cayuga County, they would be eligible for it. But if it were the town that passed it and they didn't live in the town, then they would not be
So
eligible.
the county and town can both pass.
They both can pass it, as well as the
Get
school
it,
districts.
so they can get a discount from the county and from their town.
Correct.
But in this.
So both would have to pass a local law for it.
Oh, both would have to pass together? Is that what you're saying?
No, not together, just if they were going to get
Okay.
both the county and the town,
Okay,
the county would have to pass a local law for the county, and then the town would have to.
so there's no way we can like amend our law to fix their stupidity because they don't ever leave Albany when they make decisions. Right? It's just them saying, we're gonna do this because it makes us look good, even though they're clueless about this situation, because I'm sure it's not just places like Cato and Ira where you can throw a ball back and forth and be in each town.
Right, I mean, we would have to follow what the state's law is within the local
That's
law.
what I wanted to get at. So some people are gonna get screwed if.
Correct, I'd say within the state's law, it says that it has to be within the municipality.
Most people in rural America or rural New York State, this is gonna not be very helpful.
What's going on with the $200 that they used to give?
So there's an option, if we did adopt this local law, people could either choose to get the income credit, which is the $200, or they could choose to do the 10% off their assessed value for their property taxes. They could not have both.
What it's gonna create is a lot of pissed off people. Because there's gonna be some people in the fire department that are gonna qualify and some that aren't. Because of them living very little distance away from each other. This is a very uneducated thing that Albany's come up with. It's gonna cause chaos and pissed off people.
Jennifer did a run through of the residential properties in Cayuga County that would be eligible. The average for that is $158,900. The average residential property outside the city of Auburn, okay? And you take that times our tax rate, $7 per thousand, okay? And you come up with $11, $12 worth of savings. Farmer loses, you know, anybody who signs up for the thing instead of taking the income tax write-off, you know, so. We've been opposed to it so far, you know, those of us who worked on a small committee for it. We can't see the sense of it. Some of the firemen think this is great. And they hope that the school district is gonna fall in, and of course, that would be twice what our property taxes, or what county taxes are. And if you had the town tax, finally, you could get up to a level would pay to, you know, change, but at this point, I can't see us passing a local law for that.
Good luck getting the schools.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's Albany pushing something back on us again. You know, they take away the 200 that they give, you know, and the whole burden goes back on us, you know. It's just shouldn't be done.
But the headline looks impressive.
And the whole thing is discriminatory. Anybody like a younger person who wants to join the fire department, okay? Well, first of all, it's not gonna help with recruiting because it's gonna take you 2 years before you're eligible for the property tax exemption. So there goes the recruiting part of it, you know, just, if somebody's, you know, if there's more than 2 people in the house and then both of them on the fire or ambulance service, a certain person wouldn't qualify either. It's only, you know, the 2 original owners of the property. Somebody who's living in an apartment, in a trailer or something would be eligible. You know, it's too discriminatory.
And drive by these volunteer fire departments. They got signs out there begging for people to join. They don't care if you're in their town or if you're a mile out of it, they're begging you to.
Well, the governor's problem in our state of the state address to address this problem of volunteer firemen not signing up. So let's see what comes out from there before we even consider any further action. So anybody else? Go ahead.
Just, I'm not that familiar, but the $200 is still on the table. That's eligible, but it wouldn't be if you took the tax deduction.
No, you just check off the box.
And the county, if they were, after, I think your point's well made, we might as well see what happens. The county could pass it and get an exemption on the county taxes, but the individual towns and villages, in order for them to get the additional exemption, would have to do it themselves.
They have to pass local laws
Right,
as well.
themselves.
Yeah.
Correct.
So they would be happy, the county might have done it, but then there'd be infighting if the towns and the villages don't do it as well.
They don't have to, nobody else has to do it. Each municipality can do it on their
Yeah.
own. Okay, so.
But don't forget, you have to live in that so-called
Municipality.
Yeah.
municipality. So if you're living a mile out of it and you're joined to the other one,
And you wouldn't be eligible
You get
even if
nothing.
the town or village
Yeah.
did it.
Fred, did I screw up anything?
Not yet.
Okay.
You're good. Stop while you're at it.
Okay, any further questions for Jennifer?
Thanks,
If
Jim.
not, thank you, Jennifer. Next, David Dempsey, the treasurer.
I have a report here in front of you. Wanted to mention, Jenny just mentioned about her new hire and her employee, which she's very fortunate to get that person. Unfortunately, they came from my office. And she was one of our best workers, and so we need to replace that person now. And we're challenged with civil service and everything, so we're desperately trying to work with Diane to put together a program to get up to full staff again in my office. In addition to the heavy load here that we've been doing, I was out today posting foreclosure notices all over the county, which is a bit of a challenge in some places like Summer Hill and Ledyard, in the rural areas of Summer Hill and Ledyard. So I need some new boots, I think, to get out there. I got muddy today. I don't know, Han, should I put in a voucher for cleaning shoes or anything? Or just,
He wants to know if he can get a voucher to clean his shoes, they got dirty.
Oh, yeah, you can get anything.
As long as you're willing to sign the check.
okay. Any other questions anyone might have?
Any questions for David? If not, thank you, David. Okay, is Grace here?
I am.
There she is, okay.
I didn't submit a report. I've only been in the position for a couple of weeks, so I didn't really have time to do that. I just kind of wanted to give you a little heads up on what I've been doing the last couple of weeks. I have started transitioning into my role. I've met with staff. It's kind of a slow start, just getting access to everything I need, name on the accounts I need. But I don't know if everybody knows, but we will be losing our accountant. So that's going to be a huge hit to us. So it kind of shifted priorities a little bit for me in the transition. At this point, you know, I'm going to really need to focus on the day-to-day so that we can continue operations, and then obviously focus on getting us up to and through year end. And on top of that, the position that I did leave, that leaves a big hole there. So I am still working on, you know, a lot of the functions in DSS as well, because they have to be brought through year end, and a lot of those functions I did. So, and then that will continue on. When they do fill that position, I'll have to train. We do have interviews set up, luckily, for the end of the week. We're crossing our fingers that I'm interviewing for both the junior accountant and accountant position. So hopefully, you know, we'll have some good candidates, and you know, we can get those positions filled and get those individuals trained. And that's all I have.
Any questions, Jim?
Yeah. Are those positions civil service positions?
Yes, they are.
And are the people that are interviewing, have they gone through the civil service?
Yes, they have.
Oh, okay. Hans, Heidi had her question.
If you fill the junior accountant and the senior accountant position, will your department be full?
Yes, it will at that point, yes.
And you do have candidates, you are actively engaged in
Yes,
interviews?
yes. Yes, I have a couple interviews set up tomorrow and another interview set up on Friday, so. And then if we get any other candidates, and if that pool is not good, then, you know, we'll continue the interview till we find someone.
Anybody else? Any questions? If not, thank you, Grace.
Thank you.
Okay, Diane?
Evening, you have my report. I'll just ask if anybody has any questions.
Any questions, Diane? If not, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess we're down to resolutions, ways and means. Authorize the director of finance to fill the account position. How about that?
Yeah.
Move it, a motion?
Move it, Petrus.
Second, discussion? Any questions or discussion? Not, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. WM2, Human Services Administrator to fill the senior HR associate position. Motion to that effect.
I'll make the motion.
Elaine, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, open for discussion.
Is this filling an empty position?
Yes, it is. It's vacant due to a promotion for the person who moved into the deputy HR administrator role.
Any further questions?
So will there be another position to fill after that then, or?
We're looking at promoting someone within this office into that role. So yes, it would leave another backfill to that fill.
Any further questions? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nobody, so carried, thank you. Number 3, authorizing correction of tax errors in the town of Cato. Second. Okay, discussion, anybody? Not all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, anybody? Carried. Now we really have fun. Health and Human Service. Oh, boy.
Health and Human Services had at the meeting 27 resolutions. A number of them were contract renewals. There was a few that were filling of budgeted vacancies. 2 were reclassifications of jobs. One was in the health department whereby they're going to, and that was budgeted in the 2023 budget, they're going to move a position into an administrative assistant and then abolish that position. And then there was one in Department of Social Services where they were taking a principal examiner and making it a senior. So actually moving it down 2 grades and abolishing the position that they're going to be replacing. There was an addition to the Health and Human Services agenda, and that would be HH 28. At the committee, just before the meeting, Lauren had brought to my attention, everyone knows they've been waiting and waiting to fill a staff social worker so they can start the daytime respite, or excuse me, the daytime mobile crisis team to be dealing with mental health mobile crises during the day instead of law enforcement. They did find a social worker, which is great, but they realized that that resolution to fill that social worker had expired. So HR, being as disagreeable as they are, told them they actually needed some additional legislative action. I'm just teasing you, to go ahead and fill that position. So I initially thought of a emergency resolution, and that was quickly defeated. And the committee said, instead, let's just move this to the Ways and Means meeting. So the new resolution really is to amend the resolution to fill the staff social worker that expired and give permission for that fill to continue to occur for another 6 months. Although my understanding is they have someone that's willing to start February 21st. So that will actually, we won't really need all this time. But, that was really the genesis for this additional resolution.
So can I move 28 for discussion?
Move 28, second.
Second, Basile.
So I guess my question is, it's still one position.
It is still one position. That was the one that we were going to give 80,000 in IBRA, and the city of Auburn was going to additionally share the cost so that we could get this team started. Lauren brought the resolution to fill a staff social worker, and the 6 months time frame expired. So it is the same exact position that was going to be attached to this function. We just had to bring up this resolution so that we could fill it. So yes, it is the one position that we needed to get this started. It just expired, so we just renewed it.
So there's no moving somebody to this position and then having to refill another position type thing.
My understanding is no, you're filling a staff social worker from the outside. Yes.
Okay, now to expedite things if we can. I met with Kathleen for an hour. She reviewed all the motions with me. I had no further questions, so anyone want to do a bundle on the 27 that I have?
I think we gotta vote on 28 first.
28 first, yes.
Quick question on.
Yep.
It's all right. So this is funded through ARPA to get started?
Well,
Or is it
initially
budgeted
there
now?
was it's in the 2023 budget. Once it's institutionalized, I think the city will bring in their startup funds, and ARPA was the startup funds. The rest of it is all now budgeted. That's correct.
And we will be billing for the service, so it'll be reimbursable.
Through,
Medicaid crisis, I guess, mobile crisis.
what's the reimbursement on that?
I would have to check on that for you.
I have an email because I asked that months
That
ago.
was a
What
long
is
time
the respite reimbursement?
They get the enhanced rate.
Yeah, it's pretty decent.
Yeah, so it should be sustainable, the position is sustainable with Medicaid billing dollars.
And if they're not filling, if they're not out on the road dealing with crisis, they'll be in the clinic covering clients
In crisis.
in crisis.
points at the beginning as well.
Okay, H 28, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried, thank you. Now, anybody want to do or want to separate any of the 27? Speak now or forever hold your tongue, as they say. Okay,
Hans, I don't have any problem with the bundle, but if I can ask a question before the bundle on HH 12. So are these new contracts with Cayuga Centers or is this renewing existing contracts?
To my bet, Christine's here, but these are renewal contracts. These were the preventive contracts that were enforced last year
All of them.
for the last, nothing.
Thank you. Yeah, good for to go with the bundle.
any further comments before we go?
I'll second the bundle if you first did it.
Okay,
That sounds great. First did it.
okay, so motion on the floor to approve HH 1 through 27. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, aye? Anyone opposed? Okay, thank you. It's carried. Government operations, I believe is next.
Mr. Chair, we had one resolution. It is the mandated pension reporting resolutions for elected and appointed officials. I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's open for discussion. Anyone want to comment on it?
Pension reporting to who? Wait.
New York State.
State.
Oh,
This is the annual resolution that basically sets the hours that we supposedly worked, which we didn't. And
Speak for yourself.
I'm gonna vote against it as I have in the past, because it's nonsense that the state forces us to do again. So, all that being said, any further comments? If not, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those opposed, no.
I'll go with you, Hans.
Thank you.
Stupid to fill out our little calendar.
Thank you, Chris. Government planning.
There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Planning has two resolutions. First one is to create and fill a position for the planner within the Planning and Economic Development Department and abolish one senior planner.
I'll move it for discussion.
Second.
Second.
Okay.
Okay,
I got
for discussion,
I got a question, Hans.
go ahead.
Because this is unique. We're filling an associate planner and abolishing a senior planner. It sounds like we're going down.
It's up.
That's going up.
Steve,
Thank you, Andy. It's promoting a senior planner to the next step in associate planner and abolishing that senior planner position behind her. So it doesn't exist anymore.
I guess I didn't realize associate was higher than senior. So
any further questions or comments? If not, all those in favor of planning one? Aye. Those opposed? Carried. Planning two?
Appeal 2 is to approve the request for a Cayuga County Industrial Development Agency to allow an easement along the northerly side of Eagle Drive. The construction of a new sewer line, authorizing the chair of the county legislature to execute the grant right-of-way easement.
move it.
Is there a second?
Second, Basile.
Okay, any discussion? Any comments? Not all those in favor, aye? Anyone opposed? Nobody? Carried again. Thank you. Public Works.
Public Works. Did have Health and Human Services people tonight, I guess, but we have 15 minus 8 because that got moved to planning. So what,
14.
or we have 14, yes. So all of them went through the committee, passed. Anybody want any separator? Do you want for a bundle?
Like to separate Public Works 3 and Public Works 14. if you don't mind.
Okay, so I'll offer 1, 2 through 13 and 15 as a bundle. If somebody else wants another one separated.
Second,
I'll move it.
Second.
Yeah.
okay. Any discussion on any of those? If not, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried.
All right, so which ones was it you want to separate? I get 3.
3
and
and 14, I think.
So we'll do 3 first, authorizing to fill the automotive mechanic position in the highway department.
Yep.
We want to move it so we can.
Second?
I'll move it for a second or whatever.
No.
The only question I have or clarification I want to ask about is, in this particular resolution, they're taking an automotive mechanic position that obviously wasn't funded in the 2023 budget. And they're asking to fill that, and they want you have the funding for that position that wasn't budgeted come from a defunding the automotive mechanic foreperson. I'm curious why there was no discussion about, like we have done in the multiple departments, we just did with Steve, we did in Health and Social Services, to abolish the unfunded position instead of having it continue on. It seems that we do that for all the other departments when they're changing a position and they're putting funding in one. And I think this consistency, there should be some consideration to actually then going ahead and abolishing that automotive mechanic foreperson like we do with the other departments.
That would be a good question for Brian, and I don't know if
I don't think
he's here.
he's here. I don't see him on there either.
See him on there neither.
I mean, and again, it is administrative work if you ever want to create the position again, but generally the position of the legislature has been, well, if you're not going to continue that position, we don't want the risk of it being filled after the fact. So I'd make a motion that go ahead and pass this, fill the automotive mechanic position and abolish the automotive mechanic foreperson.
Any of our lawyers have anything?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
Question with.
Ms. Daly, it sounds like you're bringing a motion to amend
Yes.
the resolution.
Yep.
To abolish the unfunded position.
Correct.
So now you're just waiting for a second.
Second.
For discussion. I hope.
Okay, we have an amendment on the floor then.
It seems.
Uh,
I have a
Any
question.
discussion on the amendment?
I have a question, if I might.
Yep.
And again, Karen, you might be able to help me with this. We don't have any mechanics over at the town barn, if I
The
can.
two that we've had are both not employed anymore. One retired and one retired.
So I think we're trying to promote somebody to a position, but I don't think we want to only have just one mechanic. I think we'd like to have more than one. Is that a fair statement?
Well, I would think Brian would want more than one. We've had two for years, but this is not about that. This is about abolishing.
This is, I get his position. He wants to fill another auto mechanic position. And from my understanding, that wasn't in his 2023 budget. It's a position that exists, but it wasn't funded. What was funded was the automotive mechanic foreperson. And he doesn't want to fill the foreperson, he wants to fill the mechanic. So my sense is, like we've done in other departments, when this circumstance happens, we've been pretty clear that we wanted that position that wasn't funded any longer abolished.
I'm gonna say no. I think it's important to fill the position and we can haggle it out afterwards, just, but at this time, I'd like to fill the position, so.
No, I think
Well, I
the
just,
position can be filled.
hang on, I just texted Brian. I said, could you be available like now? And he said, I can be. You want me to call him?
Sure. I don't think I'm doing any disservice to the highway department.
Well, I didn't- I'm
I
not
think
saying you
we're
are.
just getting rid of a position that he's not planning on filling,
Hang on.
just like we would do in the health department or in social services.
That's the way I take it, yes.
I'm gonna take him off speaker first, depending on how he answers, Then ways and means, and I'm gonna put you on speaker. All right, there's a question on PW3. You're filling the automotive mechanic position,
Yes.
and Elaine wants to know why you're not abolishing the other position. But this-
Mainly because we're not sure yet how motor pool is gonna play out and when we get moved back to highway, so we wanted that flexibility of possibly looking at a foreman's position when we get it back to highway.
But Brian, you'd have to get money in your budget for that foreman position because you're using the funding for this one position you're filling that wasn't funded, correct?
Correct.
So in
Yep,
order-
I would have to do it through the budget process, or obviously come back with another resolution.
Exactly, but in general, you don't want to go through the administrative work of creating and filling a 4-person if you don't have to? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I mean, that could be the same argument for the other departments too, when we're requiring them to abolish these positions. That it is an administrative nightmare to recreate them, but that's what we've been making people do. Because yes, technically you shouldn't be able to fill a position that isn't funded unless you move money into your budget from somewhere else.
Right, I'd have to do those. I'd have to find funding somewhere in my budget if I want to fill in the future.
So you're not sure at this point whether you might want that 4-person again, but if you do, you'd have to unfund one of this one we're funding now or find funding outside of your budget. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
So I don't know, Brian, if you can hear me, so you would still have to come before us to fill that position because you don't have funding for it.
Correct. Yes, I can't fill, once I unfund it, it's an unfunded position, therefore, I'd have to come and ask you guys for permission to fill it.
Yeah, and
Tell you where I'm getting my funding from.
I don't want to beat a dead horse to death, but that's basically, yes, that is true. But you could technically fill a position that you didn't have funded if no one was aware of it, but we'd certainly be aware of this. I don't want to make any problems for the highway department. I just think we should have some consistency in what we make people do. I'm okay with that if he thinks he might need it down the road.
Well, I know the discussion was because we didn't know exactly where motor pool
How it was all gonna pan out.
It's gonna land, correct.
is gonna land, so.
When we question other departments, I don't think we did it in the middle of their transition. I think they were established, and when we questioned that,
Okay.
it was an unneeded position. This is in the middle of a transition. It might be premature to do what you're gonna do. I get the consistency and I agree with it.
Yeah.
But it might be a little bit premature to kind of tie Brian's hands at this stage.
Well, I mean, he could get it again, but he'd have to do the administrative work, which doesn't make sense. So I'm okay with this. If this is part of a transition and some of this is unknown, I just wanted to bring that up.
And I'm gonna assume, Brian, if it works out, you don't need the position, then eventually it will be abolished.
Yeah, we can do a cleanup at the, after we get motor pool moved back and reassess the mechanics positions all over the entire highway department, motor pool. Correct.
Good enough.
Okay. Anybody else got anything for Brian before I hang up?
Are there gonna be questions for him on PW 14?
I don't think so. I think that's Parks.
Hang on.
Oh,
All right, thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thank you.
See ya.
You want to withdraw your amendment?
I will. I'll withdraw my amendment, Mr.
Okay.
Attorney.
Mr. Petros doesn't object.
What?
He does not object, no.
I saw that.
Are you speaking, Peter?
I threw my voice. I was like.
So I make a motion for number 3 as is.
Second.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion on BW3? If not, all those in favor, aye. Anyone opposed? No? No, I'm not opposed. Excuse me. Okay, the motion is carried.
All right, PW 14, authorizing the hiring of seasonal staff for parks and trails for 23.
The only, move it in seconds. Make a motion,
I'll second it.
okay? The only question I had about that is after the huge discussion we had a year ago about the lifeguards. See here,
Doug's over here.
Doug? Yeah. I noticed it's a $16 an hour fee for the lifeguards. Is that the same fee that has not been very successful in terms of getting lifeguards? I was just curious. I know the state's looking at $20 an hour, but we didn't have lifeguards last year. Is that because there are not a lot of them and they won't?
Mostly it's an inventory issue, right? There aren't certified guards. That's the biggest challenge that we're running across. In our area, we've got facilities paying anywhere from minimum wage to $22 an hour.
And they're getting lifeguards at 22 an hour? I just wondered if there was any consideration about raising the lifeguard fee since we have not been able to open the park.
Sure, we did nominally raise it from last year to this year again.
Mhm.
I heard Timmy Lattimore is looking for it.
It used to be.
He's gonna volunteer though. We don't have to pay.
Yeah, I'm say that.
No, it was really just a curious question because I know it's unfortunate to not be able to. Yes,
With the exception of the state parks, we would be about where they're paying guards currently right now. We'd be right in the middle at 60.
and because the state's paying up to 20.
They can be, yeah, depending on the facility, the location.
No, I don't know.
I think they get time and a half too.
Any further questions or comments?
Well, at least I did back in the day. No, I'm Timmy.
If no further comments, all those in favor of PW 14, is it?
Yes, sir.
13, whatever.
It was 14, you're right.
There we go. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. That's
it. We're done.
Thank you. Judicial and public safety, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Judicial and Public Safety has 7 resolutions tonight. I would like to bundle JP 1 through JP 6. All pass through committee unless someone would like one separated.
Move it. Second.
Second.
Okay, on the bundle, any questions, comments? If not, all those in favor of the bundle, aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. JP 7. JP 7 was added late, and it was added for the use of ARPA funds for an increase of $5,110 for emergency lighting. And you'll notice in the resolution as written, it says for the purchase of a scene support rehab vehicle, somehow or another, emergency lighting got left out and I did not catch it until just before the meeting. So I don't know, from the legal aspect, do we have to make an amendment to JP 7 to include emergency lighting? Or can we just accept it as read, I read it?
It should be amended because the purpose of this resolution is to add the lights to the 2 prior resolutions, so yes.
Yeah, okay. I'd like to make a,
But isn't that what it says?
oh, they left out the word emergency lighting.
They left out the lighting.
This is for vehicle
Paragraph, are you-
amendment of resolutions number 254-22 and 349-22.
It's in the title.
So this is already amending it.
It is, but I think the title needs to be amended. And that can be done. Because the title says, for the purchase of a scene support rehab vehicle. It's really for the addition of
the
lights to the previously approved support rehab vehicle. So it's the title that needs to be changed.
Okay, so I amend what he said.
Second it, the seal. So I believe I can somewhat read it as amended if it's possible. It says authorize the use of ARPA funds for the purchase of emergency lighting for the scene support rehab vehicle and the amendment of resolutions number 254-22 and 349-22. That be a fair statement, sir?
That's correct.
Thank you.
For the amendment, yeah.
This is now an amendment, right? If I understand things right?
Yeah.
Okay. Was there a second
Yes, Basile, second
to the amendment?
for the amendment.
All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Okay, back to the original now.
I'll move it as amended.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
No, I was just gonna say that the people in the ARPA group reviewed this in advance and understood the oversight on that, checking things off, and were in support of this resolution coming forth. So
Thank you for that, for the committee.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Carried again. Thank you.
That's it, Mr. Chairman, for my.
Legislature. Information only. Adopting the local law creating the county purchasing department. Is there a motion?
These are just
Just for
information.
information only.
Information only?
That's correct.
Okay.
Could I ask a
Well,
can I ask
good.
a question of Diane? I was looking at the purchasing department thing. The minimum clause, are they the same? That's how the minimum clause always read, A, B, C. So that, there's no change there. There was some discussion, quite a bit of discussion at Government Ops, I think, about having some additional information about why the change and, right, is,
That's been discussed and
Okay.
will be people available at the ledge meeting next week to answer your questions. If there are any specific questions that you have, if you want to send them to me, we can make sure we get answered. So they're available for next week's public hearing.
I guess any further business for this committee?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those in favor of adjournment, aye?
Aye. Record.
Anyone opposed?
Record.